Boob Tube Buddies podcast featuring our discussion of the FX original series Fargo, episode 6 of the 3rd season entitled The Lord of No Mercy. Just a couple of quick bits of information before we jump into it. You can check out all of our content at www.boobtubebuddies.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Reddit, or just email us at boobtubebuddies@gmail.com to get in on the conversation. We will make sure that all your questions, thoughts, theories, tinfoil hat stuff, it all gets on air. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce my co-host. My name is Foxman, and actually, Nathan, do you want to guess what comes next?
Yeah, I think, all right, so here's what I am, because generally I am something in relation to you. So this week, I think I might be the New Mexican soundstage to your Playboy Neil Armstrong.
Already a miss.
Okay, all right.
Let's see what you got next.
I got two more. Am I the Gavrilo Princip to your untimely Franz Ferdinand arrival?
Both of those are excellent ones, but wrong.
All right, last one. Am I the empty Google page to your pervading sense of mystery?
Way too specific, okay. And that is Tres Equis.
Okay, all right. What am I?
And I'm joined by the Lennon to my Beethoven. Oh. What's up, Nathan?
What's going on, man?
Super simple. Not a whole lot. Hey, I want to preface this entire conversation by saying I had a tooth break and fall out of my mouth yesterday.
Oh,
super fun. Yes, awesome. You won't hear it when I'm talking. What you might hear is me stuttering, getting a little silly, or struggling to come up with thoughts because I am on a little bit of medication stemming from those issues. So what I want you to do is, if you see me getting a little silly, getting a little too tangentialized or something like that, I want you to say, Foxman, your hydrocode done, okay?
Okay, I get it. That's very good. Very good. So I like that.
I didn't write that down. That was totally impromptu, by the way, but I can feel the fog setting in over me. So
I like that your pain, though, is going to add to the comedy this week. So that's really good.
Well, that's what Fargo's all about.
what we do for comedy and quirky, environments.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's our version of slapstick. So anyway, before we hop into the first segment, I do want to kind of just get your overall sense of what you think about the episode. I have some strong thoughts about it and about the season in total after this episode. I want to hear what you got. What do you think?
All right. Are you wanting the number, or are you wanting...
Number, then an explanation.
All right. Okay. So this episode, we could be off base with one another here because we have not discussed this, so I don't know.
Not even a little bit. I have no... If you said 3 or you said 9, I have no idea.
So I'm going to say 9.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty good, because you want to know what mine is?
Yeah, go for it.
A 9.
Oh, man, yes! Okay, fantastic. Yes. So... And I'll say just in general why, like, this episode hits all the notes of a good Fargo episode for me. Like, it's everything in me not to just give it a 10, but its place in the larger season. I don't think it's led up to the emotional impact of what a Fargo 10 episode would be. But I mean, this has the storytelling, the good cinematography, the voiceover, the quirky, the dark. It moves the plot of this season. Finally, it moves it along in a tangible way. Real
quick, let me butt in there, because you said finally, and that is going to be my one issue with the episode. And I talked with Frey Lossifer, because he and Kristen were recording Sense8 before we started, and I said, I loved this episode. I said, but it really highlighted an issue for me, which is, man, this episode felt like it should have happened 3 episodes ago. Like, the pacing of this season is the first imperfect set of pacing that I can recall for a Fargo season.
I absolutely agree. Like, looking back across this season, I wish that there had been so much more of this, and yet I look back, and an episode that I remember is the Hollywood episode, and I go, like, why the fuck was that in there when we were leading up to an episode like this? And thank God, and I will say that this is episode 6. So there are 4 more to go, and I am now very, very excited about those 4 episodes. I had found myself trailing off a little bit emotionally about these episodes. Like, well, I'll keep watching week to week. I love Fargo. I do like the performances, and there's things I like about it, but I'm not loving it. And man,
no, Yeah, because before I had considered Fargo always up on a pedestal.
Totally.
Like, it's just a great TV show. It's totally different from everything else that I watch.
Yeah.
So I find it kind of beyond reproach in a lot of aspects, whereas this season has seemed a little bit more human, but then this episode felt like, okay, now we're back on track. And honestly, episode 1 I thought was great too, and it was the perfect way to set up the story. But then instead of developing the characters naturally throughout the course of the conflict and the rise and fall of different aspects of the show, instead we had 3 or 4 episodes that were just building up the plot a little bit more to the point where it's like, well, now we only have that many episodes that we spent character building to actually resolve the conflict.
Yeah, I agree. And also, the characters thus far have been very static. So, Ray wants to get back at his brother. What's her face? Nikki wants to run away with Ray and be rich. Emmett is just confused consistently when Varga's in the room.
So confused.
Like, just consistently like, oh no, I didn't mean to get myself into this. How did we get ourselves here? Oh my God, and Sai, the same sort of thing.
This episode was the first episode where it seemed like he had where he wasn't totally listless.
So that's part of my tweet, actually, his change in demeanor here.
You know what? Actually, here, why don't we go ahead and jump into it? Because we're basically jumping into like what normally happens after summing it up in a tweet. So let's. This is 140 characters or less used to summarize the entire episode. Pretty much the first segment in every episode of Boob Tube Buddies, and it's called "Summon It Up in a Tweet."
Oh yeah, we're summing it up, so summon it up, summon it up. Oh yeah, we're summing it up. Oh yeah, we're summing it up, so summon it up, summon it up and up. Tweet.
All right. Okay. So my tweet again has to do with sort of Emmett's attitude and the whole feud that's going on. All right. Varga's hard at barring Stussy. The once great magnate seems less fussy. A brotherly gesture. Guess you're screwed because that fit sure looks like a feud. That's it.
Nice.
There you go.
Ah, that was really good, man.
All right. Okay. So, but very, very, very light on the actual summary. So I'm interested to see what you have going on if it summarizes the episode.
Mine's a little bit more summarized, but there's still a little style to it.
Okay.
But it's all fucked up. Everything's broke. Like 2 bickering brothers, broken glass in the throat. Varga is a Marxist and doesn't like police. To think this all started with crazy old Maurice, and that is summing it up in a tweet.
Sum it up in a tweet.
Okay. All right. So you hit on something though in there that I was excited to talk about because these Varga revelations of him being like a Marxist or like so when he's on the computer, there's a photograph behind him. Was that Stalin that was behind him? Did you see that?
I totally missed
so
it.
I'm pretty sure if I know history, which I don't, I'm pretty sure there was a photograph. He had the mustache. So he was on the computer when he was searching Gloria. He was Google searching her. There was a photo of Stalin behind him. Obviously, he made the analogy when Gloria and Winnie were in the room about, there were 25 Hitlers in the time of Nazi Germany. Does that mean that they all came up with, the final solution or whatever? Like, so like he's...
And she's like, oh, really? 32 or whatever the number was?
He's like hamming it up, especially with trailing off of last week and the whole Jew thing. Like, this dude is like anti-Semitic as shit.
He is, dude. He's all over the place with his ideologies too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's back and forth. I mean, it's all very like utilitarian and stuff. But like, regardless, it's just one thing after another in terms of his references. But I like that about him again because we're getting more and more character from him, and that's just an example of this episode propelling what we know about people in the show. So good tweet is what I
hey, thank you very much. You too, my friend. So let's start in on the episode a little bit. So we get a little bit more with Nikki and Ray, and by a little bit more we literally finish up one of their arcs completely in the episode. So Nikki, the way that she was beat up in the last episode, and we were talking about like maybe they should have like showed her face beaten up. I guess at the very least we see that this was consistent. Like this is what they wanted it to be, which was like just a very severe body beating.
Well, yeah, because later
that's what she has.
When Varga at the end of this episode starts to tell the story of the fake story of what they're going to say happened to Ray, he starts to say Ray was beating her up, right? He was abusing her. And then he said the sentence, beating her in places that don't show. And when he said that, I wanted to find a mic and just drop it. Because I was so thrilled that last week we identified that it was strange that they didn't show any markings on her.
That's exactly right.
And then he says beating her in places that don't show. And I'm like, oh no, I should have trusted you. I'm sorry, Fargo. I'm sorry. I knew you knew what you was doing. I'm sorry. And so.
I agree.
Yeah, them showcasing that they had a plan. The reason that they did that and they didn't beat up her face, that they kind of stomped on her abdomen, sort of torso area, was because they wanted to later potentially, and I don't know if this was a plan or if they're just playing it off this way, but the characters may have potentially wanted to frame rape or something later on by stating that he was abusive, and so they didn't want to touch her face. That could be one way of going about it, or it could have been just a happy accident for them, but either way it works out.
The scene, the second scene, which is the one where Varga's telling the stories about the market crash and Lehman Brothers and the genesis of World War I with the murder of the Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and then also the moon landing being a hoax. Yeah. It really reminded me the way that it was done. You've seen the Watchmen movie?
Yeah.
It reminded me of the beginning of the Watchmen movie where you're seeing basically like the last 70 years done up in like slow motion sort of stuff. It reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah, I could see that. When he told the stories, and maybe you can tie the loose ends for me, this is one of those Fargo things where it's like there's these awesome little narratives that are told. Sometimes they have a visual aid. Sometimes they're just a character telling a story to another character. And I'm never 100% positive how they tie in. So in this case, he told 3 stories. And they were all supposedly true stories.
Yes.
And then what was his point there about the truth is what you tell it? What was his point there?
I don't exactly know. I mean, I think it's basically like that. I think it maybe ties into the lies that he is telling in terms of like the books. So like with how the moon landing thing, like people will believe the story that ends up getting told regardless. And I guess that's how he was tying it in. I'm sure that there is a deeper level to it that I was just simply not getting.
No, I don't necessarily think so actually, because that actually makes a lot of sense. It's because he goes on to immediately say, they're not looking at the real books, but the story that we're telling them is the story that they're going to believe. Right.
Yes, and then off into the fake books, the offshore accounts in Monaco and Luxembourg, things like that.
And then his plan to buy these mall parking lots and things like that. And the other good thing about this is that, so this entire time Varga has sort of been this mysterious presence in the Stussy Corporation that he hasn't been very good at or at least the show hasn't been good at showing him making decisions. He just seems to always be there and be an impending sort of presence.
It's just a steamroller.
That's it. And then he just comes in and he's like, here's how you're going to do it now. But I don't see the actual intelligence or power behind him. I just know that I'm supposed to think of him as threatening. In this scene, he actually is telling them, here's our plan. Here's how we're going to earn more money, And so to see
he's
him
orchestrating actually the whole episode too. Same thing with when Winnie and Gloria come in, and then we see it when he's kind of telling them the Russian guy and the Asian guy when they're at their little makeshift headquarters in the Stussy lot, and he's giving out orders to them. Now we're actually seeing him making moves instead of exactly like you said, just basically swinging his big dick.
Yes, and literally.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You point out when Gloria and Winnie show up at the Stussy company to ask, they show up to ask Emmett about the potential tie to Ray and if Ray would have had something he wanted to steal from Emmett. But traditionally, you would think of that scene as an important scene that we follow Gloria in, and she goes into the office and we sit down and Emmett's there and he talks. But instead, that whole scene plays out and we watch it from Varga's perspective as Varga's walking toward the office, and the sounds are muffled behind glass a little bit. So we're not actually in the action of the room because we're seeing it all happen from Varga's perspective. Another piece of evidence that, I think Varga was really the impetus here in this episode. He was sort of orchestrating the whole thing and moving it along and making things happen.
I agree. And that shot of him creeping towards the door, I in my head I was like, oh my god, please go in. It's so awkward with you creeping outside of the doorway.
They're gonna
it's
see
it's
you.
a glass wall, you asshole. So I was glad that happened. And I will say, because I don't want to skip past it, the scene with the IRS agent and then the Asian henchman pretending to be whatever legal counsel for Stasi Corp. Yeah, and he comes in and literally it's the most Fargo shot possible. Like sets everything up exactly perfectly symmetrical with how the IRS agents is, except for the one thing, which is the last thing, which is essentially where he's throwing back legal precedents in the IRS agent's face and sending him packing immediately.
Yeah, which that scene happens so quickly, and the IRS agent is in this episode for so little time. It like you said, it is very quintessentially Fargo. And then there's this shot down the center table that's just like perfectly symmetrical with this like Christmas tree right there in the middle. And again, that's one of the, I mentioned cinematography earlier, and that's one of the things that makes this episode of Fargo just very, very Fargo.
But you think that we're definitely not done with Hamfish Link splatter yet, right?
No. Wait, what did you call him? Hamfish? What did you call him?
Whatever I turned it into there, I could not replicate
I can't remember.
That.
Well, him only having 0 lines in this episode is not going to bode well later for my 2 truths and a lie. Just saying.
Oh no. Okay, all right. That's a good little teaser. I have no idea. I'm assuming that it is about Hamfish splatter.
Hamfish slaughter. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so so we actually see that Ray and Nikki are tailing around the Asian guy, and so they actually find out, well, that's where they see Fargo for the first time, and now they know like that's their little makeshift headquarters, or at the very least that's where they are linking up, you know?
Yes, yeah. Well, and so
do you think Nikki will take the fight to them at any point? Because otherwise, there's no real reason for them to have tailed them, for us even to have gotten that scene if that was not going to culminate in something later.
I always took Nikki as the one who was going to be taking the action in the relationship. I did not see her like prior to last week. If I had to guess who was going to die first, it would have been Ray, not Nikki, which is why last week sort of surprised me when that began to happen, and this week did not surprise me.
I am surprised that Ray died so early in the season, to be totally honest, because he was probably the ultimate catalyst, other than Varga, maybe, but probably the ultimate catalyst for action and conflict in the show.
He was, but realistically, like, Emmett was sort of just ignoring Ray. Ray kept trying to oppress his viewpoint upon Emmett, and Emmett was really kind of just ignoring it happening because he's got his own shit going on. And Nikki was the one who was constantly in Emmett's ear saying, you got to go get that stamp. You know, your brother owes you this. You deserve better in life, blah, blah, blah.
That's true that Emmett was ignoring him, but Cy was acting as Emmett's agent, so it wasn't that he was totally ignoring him. It was just coming all through Cy.
That makes sense. I mean, and so when Ray does die at the end, obviously, when that does happen, I was surprised, and I think that killing him off in episode 6 is an interesting way of catching you off guard. I think that's really what it is, because I expect everyone to die, like except Gloria, you know, by the end of the season. And so if that had happened on episode 8 or 9, I don't know if I would have been as surprised. It's like, okay, kill him off and we have one episode without him. Killing him off in 6 catches you off guard and makes a great surprise moment. But I
found it both exciting and disappointing for that exact reason.
Yes, exactly. But I still think there's a great season to go. Like, I don't feel like it ruins our prospects of something, because I think that Nikki will take up that mantle.
No. Oh, I'm right there with you. I totally agree. What did you think about Varga picking at his blackened chomper? I was gonna bring that up.
I wanted to know when we were gonna start talking about that.
Was that a screwdriver?
Yes, it was a little mini screwdriver, like what you use for like eyeglasses or something.
Dude.
Yeah.
That was gross.
So he's picking at his tooth, almost like he's moving his tooth out of place, like it almost looked like he was manipulating his teeth so that they look bad on purpose. Like, that's almost...
Let me set the stage for the frame of mind I was in watching this. So I did not watch it last night. I watched it today. And I watched it an hour after getting back from a 2-hour stint at the endodontist, having my fucking broken tooth drilled into and all this shit happening. I mean, like... pretty intense dental work, and I come home and this is what I'm watching.
Yeah.
I will tell you, dude, it made my stomach seriously turn, and I was having like sympathy pains with this guy right then.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like his bulimia, right? Like he's someone who's prone to hurting himself or making himself, damaging himself in some way, effectively.
Oh, can I add to what you're saying there?
Please.
Okay, so people who have bulimia or people who have any sort of intestinal issues that lead to them vomiting a lot have weakened gums, and people with weakened gums oftentimes, excuse me, Jesus Christ, oh God, am I hydroco done already?
Hey.
But oftentimes actually experience like a pleasurable pain from things like flossing or even just like pressing hard against their gums and things like that. And I had been reading online stuff about it actually today after that, but I had heard that before, and I wonder if it's just as simple as that or as weird as that.
Probably. I didn't know that at all. I love that you were able to bring that tidbit of information to this, because I did not know that. I'm sure they tie into one another.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting little bit of detail. The lines that I had drawn are probably incorrect, but just the fact that he has shitty teeth, obviously, like, and then he's picking at his teeth. So I'm like, well, is there a correlation between those two? Like, or is he somehow, did he cause the way that his teeth look in some way? And it's possible just from puking all the time and, this sort of self-injury. But that's a very interesting fact I didn't know.
So the scene with Gloria, Winnie, Emmett, and Varga, was there anything in there that you think is really like any specific lines, or just overall like the tone of that you found? Because that was honestly a great scene. Just seeing him, the wolf meeting Peter, basically.
Oh yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Actually, yeah, you're absolutely right. Although Peter does not back down, and appear, at all, and even by the end of this episode, obviously doesn't. But.
Did you catch, by the way, the guitar doing kind of like a bastardized version of Peter and the Wolf a couple of times throughout the episode?
I did not. That's cool.
Yeah, it was very subtle, and it was only for like a moment or two. It was like, dun, 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 dun. Just like things like that.
I'm telling you, 9.5 maybe on this episode. I'm telling you. But obviously in this conversation, he brings up the Hitler thing, which I think is a fascinating little point, and it says a lot about Varga. But also says a lot about Gloria with the way she responds. Varga takes control here, but obviously seems slightly thrown off by the fact that this is happening. Like, he comes in, and Emmett, for whatever the fuck reason, is like, no, we're okay. And like he thought that Varga would just listen to him and turn around.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Dude. Well, I mean, honestly, that is in no way, shape, or form not aligned with what we've seen with Emmett.
True.
He has no idea how to handle himself in any situation that has Varga associated. So
yeah, and at the end, actually, I was surprised that Varga, as Gloria was leaving, I would expect Varga to just sort of like say, "Okay, you're good to go," and then usher them out the door. But on the way out, he asks her a question about her town.
Yes.
And I don't remember the question exactly. I just remember it throwing me off that on the way out, he was choosing to make small talk about her town. But
also like very overtly telling her that it was time to leave. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a subtle suggestion. It was literally him saying, "Okay, it's time for you to go."
Yes, she looks at him and goes, "So are we leaving now?" And he goes, "Yes."
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Like,
it's
definitely
like,
not
okay.
like being subtle.
But this leads immediately into Varga Google searching Gloria Burgle multiple times on what appear to be two different search engines.
One of us called that in one of the last episodes, something about the technology and her not being able to be found and how that was gonna. I mean, we were talking about.
We literally
that
had that conversation. Yep,
exactly.
And it's hilarious that this is so overt. When you type anything into Google, it doesn't matter how obscure the terminology, like still hundreds of thousands of hits come up because the internet is, the size of the universe. But
yes.
You type in Gloria Burgle and Google's just like, no, there's nothing. Just literally, there are no things with that name on the internet.
Again, it's not like somebody named Gloria was burgled at some point or
could
something
easily
like that.
Those two words are going to show up everywhere on the internet, but when you type them together, nothing shows up.
Are you sure you didn't mean to type Glorious Bugle?
I'm surprised we didn't see that either.
It's something.
Yeah. But he finally
real
gets
quick,
to the...
before we get too far into it, I think we should throw over real quick to Kristen's Darn Tootin'.
Darn Tootin', yeah, okay.
Darn Tootin'. Oh, hey guys, it's been a while, but it's your Boob Tube Buddy, Kristen, come to tell you about 2 facts that I've learned recently about Fargo. Did you know in the first episode of this season that young Vivian and old Vivian are actually mother and daughter in real life? Frances, I think her name's Frances Fisher. Yeah, she actually had a baby with Clint Eastwood, and Francesca Eastwood is the young daughter. That was my first fun fact. Okay, on to 2. Number 2, the diner in the first episode with Frances is actually the same one that the nihilists go to in The Big Lebowski. Very good backing up. Great nihilistic callback. Nicely done, Mr. Noah Hawley. And that are my fun facts for today. See you later, little buddies. Darn Tootin'.
Okay, thank you very much, Kristen, for that Darn Tootin'. Everybody, make sure you check out Sense8, which she's on. I think she's also going to be contributing towards our Twin Peaks podcast, which just started up this week, too.
Nice.
Do you watch Twin Peaks, by the way?
I don't. And
okay.
I haven't seen the original,
Perfect.
Nor have I watched
I've never seen any of it either, so I don't feel like I'm the only Boob Tube buddy on the outside of this.
Now,
one.
are you, when you watch it, what will you be watching? The original, or are you going to even watch the new one?
Mothman is trying to get me to contribute to an episode just simply by watching an episode and coming in with zero, knowing nothing about it.
He asked the
and
same of
coming
me.
in and okay, so I will probably do that. The problem is that I don't necessarily want to go out and pay for Showtime for a single episode.
Oh, that makes sense.
So we'll see how it all works out.
Yeah, fair enough. But
okay,
maybe.
let's hop back into this because there is still a lot to break down. All right, so let's see where are we at in the episode? Probably right around the time where I think where Gloria comes and a knocking on the house where Nikki and Ray are at, and they realize okay, shit, it's probably time to blow this popsicle stand.
Yes, yeah, and this is also right immediately after Varga has sent his men to kill Emmett and Nikki. He's given them the execution order, right?
Quote unquote, his bitch is what he calls her.
Right, yes, Ray and his bitch, yes. And so he's gotten the execution order on that. And I'm gonna be honest, literally right now, I did not realize it was Gloria outside the house. When is that revealed?
Yep, I can tell you exactly when it is. So, you see how the silhouettes a couple of times?
Yeah.
You must have just looked down or were
I
taking notes or
see
something,
it.
because she actually leans over and looks in through a window that is it's because it's kind of like it's a higher level sort of thing.
Yeah,
so she's looking in through the kitchen window.
Yeah, she's standing up, and kind of like the apartment is a little bit below ground. Yeah,
precisely.
In one of the silhouettes, you can see basically her hat. So if you're observant enough, you can kind of tell. But I did not, and then I now see the exact shot that you're talking about.
Totally, yeah.
But because later they mention law enforcement's after us. So I didn't know how they knew the cops were after them. But that makes a lot of sense now. So they just decide to get the hell out of Dodge and then take the cash and go to a motel that takes cash.
Have you ever heard that John the Revelator song?
I have, and I couldn't.
Sons of Anarchy?
That's where it is. Yes.
Okay, I didn't know. That's the only place I'd ever heard it before.
You.
There's a billion versions of it, because after I heard it in, Now tell me who's that riding?
Yeah.
Down the river.
Was that the version from Sons of Anarchy?
No, it was not.
I was going to say, because
Absolutely
his inflection in this song, I was listening to it, I was like, John the Revelator, I know the song. I don't recognize this guy's like his tone and the way he's saying these words.
Well, and this one was a cappella. The other one definitely has some slow drums and guitar and stuff.
You are thank you. I was gonna Google it later. Now I don't have to. Totally.
Yeah, and because it's about Jax and then his father John Teller. Mm-hmm. So but anyway, I thought, and it's kind of interesting too because they both are FX shows. Do you like Sons of Anarchy, by the way?
So didn't finish it. I think I ended in like the last season, and I have no idea why I didn't finish it. But
yeah, that's a shame, because even though I don't love the ending, if you made it that far into it, and because the show is flawed, like it probably should have been chopped down by like
it was pretty long.
About 2 or 3 seasons maybe.
Yeah,
but it's still a pretty solid show.
Given the source material, I have an expectation of how I want it to end, and I guess I'm a little afraid it's not going to live up to my expectations in the end.
It won't.
If they're following, okay, all right, well, lame.
Yeah, but you should still, I mean, you invested that much time into it, and I will say it's not the worst ending that I've ever seen. It's just not, it's not anything where you're going to be like, I'm going to tell my kids about that one day.
I mean, not the end, but like the show in general, I just spoke with my wife about, and I was like, I know, trust me, when I first watched it, like I'm not into like motorcycle clubs. That's just not my, I don't know, like that's not the aesthetic that I seek. And
no, me neither. Motorcycle Hamlet is not normally.
No, I would not have responded to that, but goddamn, it was so good for a while.
It really, and honestly, I well, you know what? Let's not get off.
Oh, okay, damn it!
It's a good show.
We can't make the Sam Crow podcast.
Whatever.
Really, other quick thing though about just super tangent off to the left. Sorry, but
no, go ahead.
The girl who plays Tara in that. I had not seen her in anything else other than Sons of Anarchy. And then I recently just started watching Billions on Showtime, and she's in that. She's like a main character in that. And so I've been thinking about Sons of Anarchy recently because I was like, oh, I need to watch that again. I maybe need to finish that because the girl who plays Tara is the character in Billions.
That's interesting. I do want to know if you had caught this, because I didn't. I saw it online afterwards, went back and verified. Did you happen to see when Nikki is at the hotel? I believe it's actually after Ray has left.
Yeah.
But did you happen to see she's watching TV and you can hear it in the background?
Yeah.
Did you happen to catch what was on it?
I didn't. It was very loud, and I thought about the TV being on as a good distraction for this guy sneaking into the apartment. So I noticed the TV, but I did not notice what was on it. What was it?
Okay, so you can hear a laugh track in the back, and so it's like you can tell it's like a sitcom or something.
Yeah.
The actual voices and dialogue going on is actually from season 2, where Dodd is tied up by Peggy and Ed, and the voices are a little different, and there's a laugh track, but it's the same dialogue from that, as if they're in the universe, and like that happened in the past, and now there's been some show like a Fargo, but like maybe a Fargo with the laugh track that is like talking about that set of circumstances, sort of thing.
What?
Is that not the weirdest goddamn thing you've ever heard?
That's absurd.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so in order for that to be true in the Fargo universe, given that all 3 seasons exist in the same universe and one is not a television show inside of another, if they were all the same universe, then yeah, you're right. Someone would have had to have known the story of the Gearharts and decided to make a Gearhart sitcom, and it aired in 2010.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, yeah. If Nikki's into
maybe, it, I mean, not necessarily aired in 2010. Maybe was
a rerun. Okay, all right.
This
could have been like a late 80s sort of sitcom. That gotcha. All right, I buy that.
Yeah. Well, it's the weirdest thing. I don't even know like what else to say about it. I just I read that and I was like, there's no way that's true. And I went back and I listened. I'm like, hot damn, like that actually happened. And my closed caption picked it up too. So pretty weird.
Weird. Okay, would not have ever caught that. I love that.
Did you think that it was a good idea that Nikki left the door cracked when she went to the ice thing, considering she knows that they are in a sort of fugitives type situation?
No, that's the first thing I thought. She walks out towards the ice, and then they show the cracked door. I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? The only thing I thought is that she's hurt, she's injured, she's limping, she couldn't think to bring the keys, and then fumble with both ice and keys to get back in. So she thought,
dude, if that's the reason why, then that sucks. Like that is just like, I mean, that sucks.
If she's like, oh, listen, I'll jot. It's gonna be 30 seconds. I'll go get the ice. I'll come right back. You know. But
she's the thoughtful criminal usually
right.
too, in terms of like the planning. And yes, she's impetuous, but that just seems like an I'll be right back in like a Scream movie sort of thing. It's just a really bad trope that she just opened herself up to.
Yeah. Well, and when she returns, and this sort of bleeds 2 scenes into one another, but when she returns, this is after. So while she's out getting ice, the scene where Ray dies happens. And so Ray dies as a result of this accident with the stamp and the glass. And then we cut back, and now knowing that Ray is dead, I slightly fear that, okay, are we killing off both? Is Nikki also going to die here at the hand of like the Asian guy, right? Or rather this, some kind of Oriental guy. She says.
I got you.
But then she's sneaking into she sees the doors cracked, and I'm like, okay, cool. So what we're saying is that Ray's too dumb and he's dead. But Nikki is smart and she's alive, and she'll probably prevail if she keeps her, her wits about her. And she noticed the door being cracked, and I thought that the guy was still going to be in the room and she was going to attack and kill the Asian guy.
For sure, that's what they're setting it up. But I was a little confused, and maybe you can illuminate this for me. But when she gets back to the door and she notices it being cracked and open, and she comes in and grabs the coat hanger, I was a little confused because she's the one who left it like that. It's not like it was closed and then she came back and she's like, hey, something's a little off here. Or do you think she just came back and she's like,
oh, I'm an idiot.
That wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm an idiot.
I thought when she looked at it again, the fact that she stopped, because what I questioned in that moment was, did I miss it? And did she close the door, but then the Asian guy went in and forgot to close it? That's dumb. That's unlike him. So my thought was when she saw the open door, she just thought, oh shit, I'm an idiot. And there's something feels weird, and then was just being very careful.
What did you think about the Ray death? I mean, because we've talked about it in generality so far, but what did you actually think about that scene?
I mean, again, it happens in such a nonsensical way that it's very Fargo. Like these deaths that happen from just a crazy sequence of circumstances that it's what you would consider a freak accident death kind of thing, right? You read it in the newspaper that so and so died because their dog ran into the door, which hit the washing machine, which knocked over the detergent, which hit an axe that fell on someone's head. That kind of shit.
It's like an elaborate game of mousetrap.
Yeah, and this is not that absurd, but still, like this little fight back and forth, and then he just pushes the frame back, and then a shard of glass goes into his neck, and then he pulls it out, and it starts spurting. Like, it's a freak accident death. And again, I continue to say the words very Fargo, as if Fargo is a descriptor, but, to me it is. This sort of absurdity, this dark, absurd, dark comedy sort of feeling. And so
I'm gonna say something that that might be a little bit of a hot take here, and maybe you'll totally disagree, and that is fine. And I'm not gonna have an argument about.
We're gonna fight.
I'm just gonna say it. Yeah. I am a pretty big Huey McGee fan, and I don't find his performance this season to be anything to write home about.
Yeah, it doesn't stand out. It's not
bad. It's just I feel like he's being outshined by almost every other main character, or even side characters like Cy. Pretty much every actor.
It almost feels like he's struggling
more.
Too much with the accent and
even the emotion in this scene, the way that he's reacting to Ray's death.
That's what I mean. I feel like he's struggling as a Scottish actor. I feel like he's struggling too much with the accent to focus on the nuance. That's kind of what I mean. Maybe that's what it is. And maybe I'm the only person in the world who feels that way. So I'm not trying to stir up a fucking pot, sort of thing. But it's not a bad performance, and I'm not pulled out. There are times in this season that I've been pulled out of my suspension of disbelief, and some of those times, are Ewan McGregor and the way that he's portraying those characters, but not consistently, And so I buy him as both of those characters, and it's fine to watch, but it's not me watching something and I'm like, guys, you got to watch this season. This person's performance is incredible, And there are some shows I just watched, Legion, Noah Hawley's other episode. I had never seen the actor Dan Stevens do anything prior to Legion.
I had not either.
Yeah, because it was just Downton Abbey. I think that was the big thing he had done prior to that.
I know that's what he's people are familiar with him from.
And his performance in that show to me was so good that I was like, I want to watch just the scene where he does this monologue again. I just want to watch him perform again.
Agreed. It's noticeable and breathtaking what a good job he does.
And I don't get that from Ewan McGregor, where I wanted to. When I heard he was cast, I was like, I'm just going to want to absorb every second he's on screen, aren't I? And I don't.
Yeah, because I consider him to be a really top-notch actor.
Me too. I've always loved him. And I still, the fact that he's in Fargo is really great. This season of Fargo is a little gem just because it's Ewan McGregor on TV playing twins. That's so cool. But not because of his performance, for sure.
Agreed. Okay, so we still have a little bit more of the show to talk about, but I think it is a natural time for us to cut over to our 2 truths and 1 big little lie. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's play a game called
2 truths and 1 big
Little Lie.
All right, so it's going to be a big surprise. You ready? Who I did mine on?
What you got? Yeah.
I did mine.
Is it hamfish link splatter?
It's not Hamfish Link Splatter. It's
I like hearing you say
it's
it.
it's Hamish Linklater.
Oh,
Hamish
okay,
Linklater,
smart.
ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
So,
his alter ego.
The man who the man who spoke no lines this episode and a few last, but has now appeared in 2 Noah Hawley shows, and I don't know, I like him, so I wanted to learn a little bit more about him. So I
like him too. He does a good job in this, and he did a great job
yeah,
in
he does.
Legion too.
Yeah, he's like a nice guy in this. I hate that he's, I hate that they're. Why are they oppressing the IRS guy? What has the
I
IRS
don't
ever
know.
done to them?
It's terrible. Yeah, everybody loves the IRS.
All right, I got 3 bite-sized chunks of information for you about Hamish Linklater. You ready?
I know nothing about him, so let's do it.
All right. Hamish Linklater auditioned for the role of Jim Halpert.
I could see that. I could really see that.
Okay, cool. Ready? Hamish Linklater has a cat named Rainbow,
Okay.
and Hamish Linklater is an avid gardener.
Golly. Every one of those sounds totally fake to me. I am going to say that the third one is false because the other 2 seem like things you could have found easier.
So you're going to say he's not an avid gardener?
He's not an avid gardener.
Hamish Linklater is an avid gardener.
No, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I pretty much now just lost 2 truths.
Because, that's just a bite-sized chunk of information that exists on the internet about him. I don't know why. I don't know anyone with a cat named Rainbow. But
Wow.
I thought about doing that one as like, he and his wife own 3 cats and one of them is named Rainbow. That was going to be the thing. But then if I said it that way, I thought you'd go, that one's too detailed and long. So that's the one you made up. So I just shortened it. He did audition for Jim.
Yeah, see, he really looks like he fits that
The
mold.
Jim Halpert mold, the tall, likable sort of everyday man kind of
Exactly,
thing.
yeah. I could have
straight
definitely
man.
seen that one. So it was between 2 and 3 and totally interchangeable which one, flip of a coin, which one I would have picked. But, of course, the coin landed on the wrong one, as it always fucking does. And I'm prepared 100% for you to get mine right. So let's go ahead and jump into it.
Here we go.
All right. True. Oh, I did mine basically Fargo production type stuff. So it's just like random Fargo facts, almost like something you'd pull off of a darn tootin', just slipped into a 2 truths format.
All right, I like it.
Okay. Truth 1. In 1997, a pilot directed by Kathy Bates and starring a pre-Sopranos Edie Falco as Marge Gunderson was passed on by the major networks. Truth 2. The composer of Fargo's music, Bryan Des Vosges, something like that, is one of the founding members of the band 9 Days. Truth 3. Fargo has won 32 of its 133 award nominations.
And when you say Fargo for the last one, you're referring to the franchise, the show, or the movie?
That is a fair question. I am talking about the TV show specifically.
Gotcha. 100-something nominations. It's won 32 across any nomination of any award ever.
Yes.
The Kathy Bates Edie Falco fact is incredibly specific, and if that pilot does exist, I want to see it. God. Okay, and your True 2 was the 9 Days band, right?
Yes.
Never heard of that band.
This is the story of a girl.
And this is
if they do anything else, I have no idea.
And this is the guy who does the music for the TV show.
That's exactly right.
And what was his name again?
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Bryan Des Vosges.
Okay.
Desvaux. Desveaux.
All right. I don't believe that is true. I don't believe that he was in 9 Days.
You're too goddamn good. It's just not even fair.
Am I right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The composer of Fargo's music is Jeff Russo, and he's from the band Tonic from the 90s. God.
Oh, thank you for singing me the song, though, because when I know I recognize it, I just stop believing it.
Oh, man. Yeah, well, Tonic sings a shitload of songs that are exactly like that song, and that's what made me...
Oh, you listened to Tonic, and then you were like, oh, this sounds like 9 Days?
Well, I can't remember what it is now, because when I was reading the thing, I was like, oh, yeah, I know that song. And I was like, that song reminds me exactly of, this is the story of a girl.
That's really good. Nice.
Apparently, it's not really good.
Oh,
listen. You're fucking steamrolling me.
Now I got to start thinking about... So just so I know, because we're on episode 6, so we've got a few to go. But in general, on a Boob Tube Buddies series, describe what the type of punishment is for the last episode.
Well, you'll have to basically, and honestly, if you just want to go ahead and give me the punishment so I can start prepping now, I suppose that would be apropos.
Is it like talking in an accent for the episode?
Maybe not for the whole episode, because we want people to actually want to listen.
Right.
Yeah. But it could be something like make me sing like a fucking embarrassing sort of parody song, or write something like that. You know what I mean? Like something.
All right, I'll give it another week just to see if I bomb next week, and if you're back in the running.
Either way, I'd start letting it percolate a little bit, because I'd say that's the direction we're heading.
Yeah, well done. Well done anyways. Good try.
Yeah, thank you. Fuck you. All right, let's throw to an ad a little bit, and I'm going to try to see if I can pull myself out of the dumpster real quick.
And one big
little lie.
Who is it? You have to let me in. There are monsters on the streets. Flesh-eating monsters. What? Are you crazy? Go away. No, please. You can't leave me out here. I will die. They will eat me alive. Oh, shucks. Look, I can't let you in. I have a family to protect, but I can make it better. Really? How? How could you possibly make this better? Well, with a coupon, of course. Go to audibletrial.com/boobtubebuddies and you can get a free book. A book like The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. What the fuck is an audiobook going to do for me? You don't know The Secret? The Secret has been passed down through the ages, highly coveted, hidden, lost, stolen and bought again for vast sums of money. It's been handed down by oral tradition and practiced by Plato, Galileo, Beethoven, and even Einstein. It gives you the power to do anything that you want. You've got to be kidding me. No, not at all. The Secret shows you how to realize your optimized reality. It's why I'm in a warm, cozy house with a loving family, eating filet mignon, and you're outside running from flesh-eating beasts. And it's only a 4.5-hour listen, and then you'll be good to go. Good luck! But I don't even have headphones! Oh God, they're coming!
Okay, so one thing I want to point out that I thought was kind of interesting is when Emmett calls Varga, kind of like he's Mr. Wolf, gonna come in and clean up. Oh, wow, he actually is like Mr. Wolf.
Hey, what do you know? The wolf bad. Is like Mr. Wolf. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, not bad. Yep. So it reminded me so much of when Lester called Malvo after killing his wife. And then especially when Varga says something to the effect, or Emmett says like, "I didn't mean to," or "It was an accident," and then Varga's like, "It always is," and it just really seemed like a pretty serious parallel.
It absolutely did. Yeah, he's coming in to basically mop everything up and figure out a plan of the story that they're going to tell. When Malvo comes over, he's a lot less helpful to Lester. Because he just comes over and just says, "Lester, you've been a bad boy," that kind of thing. And really, there's not a whole lot of collusion involved because things go south there and Lester kind of gets caught. But
well, yeah. Instead, you know how earlier in the episode the Asian guy asked him quiet or loud,
yeah,
and then it reminded me of that because Malvo definitely loud, whereas this is quiet.
They're operating quiet. Yep, absolutely. I actually didn't even think about that comparison, but that's the very same thing. There's a line that happens in this scene that made my brain just go all over the place with wondering about what they're trying to pull here. But Emmett says to Varga as he's walking like down the stairs into the room or something. He's like walking into the room. Something about I don't know. I don't remember what he says to Varga. Something about him seeing him. And Varga says the sentence, "I'm so rarely seen, maybe I don't even exist." Did you catch that?
Yeah. So what do you think is behind that?
I don't necessarily know if anything is behind it, but it makes you start to go, like they throw that in there to make your brain go, okay, I'm so rarely seen, maybe I don't even exist. He says those words. Okay, well, what if Varga doesn't exist? Let's take that as face value. Let's take that as reality. Well, then what is actually happening? Who is Varga? Is Emmett just sort of like crazy and he's the person orchestrating all of this, and later we find out he's been Varga the whole time or some shit? You know,
oh my God, that would be what would happen if Chuck Palahniuk and
Right.
M. Night Shyamalan came in to write the season together.
Fargo Fight Club.
Speaking of M. Night Shyamalan, by the way, I just watched Split this week.
What'd you think?
Pretty good.
I agree.
You saw it, okay?
I
Gotcha.
did.
I was really, and you know what? Bethany really liked it too, which I feel like is like the real test of it's a good movie, because I'll sit down and enjoy pretty much any piece of shit movie, and I'm happy to tear a hole in it afterwards or whatever. But no, I mean we were like, wow, and you know what? That James McAvoy, he's a like a grade actor.
He's a downright guy. He's pretty A grade. I agree.
Pretty A grade. Oh no! Was that the drug stalking?
That was probably, you said he's an A grade actor. So yeah, maybe a little bit. But I do agree, he's good. I think A list maybe. But yeah,
maybe
he is,
or grade A, not A.
Oh,
grade.
Okay. He's good. The movie was good, and I obviously have been very disappointed in the Shyamalan movies of the past half decade or more. And so watching that and it being good was...
Did you call him Shyamalan?
I say Shyamalan. Is it what is it?
Fuck. I say it wrong on purpose, but now I can't say it right. But I think it's just Shyamalan, right?
Shyamalan?
I think so.
So you don't pronounce the Y? Because it's phonetically Shyamalan.
Yeah, I think that you don't... I think you just say Shyamalan.
Shyamalan, damn. Well, Shyamalan ding dong. I'm not on drugs, ladies and gentlemen.
He swears.
But anyway, so really quickly, there's Split, and without giving anything away, I liked the quote-unquote twist of Split, which is really a post-credit sequence that reveals kind of what you've actually been watching the whole time.
Oh my God, yes. Okay, let's not spoil it for anybody else. But let me just say, you all should watch it. It is the best movie that he has done in years, and I mean, arguably, it would be like one of his best two films, in my opinion.
Interesting. That's cool. Save it for another podcast. I like it.
For sure. Okay, so I guess the only other things that really end up happening is, you know, Emmett is kind of told by Varga, here's how we're going to deal with this sort of thing. And then we see Gloria, who had been driving away from there originally. She just decides, you know what? Screw it. Busts a U-turn, calls in to dispatch or whatever to tell them to get Winnie and let her know that she's doubling back to the PO's domicile.
Which, when she says PO's domicile, she referring to the office? She referring to Emmett's house?
Oh, the parole officer's domicile.
Oh, Ray's house.
The parole officer being Ray.
Gotcha. The PO. Gotcha. I didn't get that.
Okay. Yeah, so anyway, I think that sets up, I would assume, an explosive beginning to next week's episode. That's the way that I took it.
Yeah, me too. It's the episode that gives, and then leaves you hanging in a great way. So, that's kind of how I perceived it. It ended with action, but it also ended with Gloria, like, making a decision about what she's going to do. And this whole time has been Gloria piecemealing things together, traveling and following the wrong path, coming back, trying to follow the right path, asking questions, really kind of getting met with just disdain and, uncooperation, asking more questions, getting the same sort of thing. And it's just been no luck for her. So to see her take control and say, nope, you know what? Here's what we're doing. We're figuring this out tonight. We're going to get it done, and just drive in there. Like, I love that. And that, again, this is another, we're changing these static characters are becoming more and more dynamic. Or dead, and I like that.
Yeah, agreed. So Again, it was the best episode of the season for me, even better than the first one, which I would have before this counted as being the best episode. But
I agree.
It's a really good one. Do you have any last minute thoughts or anything like that we didn't get to about the episode?
No, man. I'm sticking with my 9 to 9.5, and I'm excited for next week.
I'm right there with you. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. We have Better Call Saul, American Gods, Sense8, and Twin Peaks going, and we just put out an Alien Covenant podcast, and might end up doing a Pirates one this weekend. I don't know. I think I'm going to see it with Jables tomorrow, just because I have a day off, and fuck it, take my money, Disney, whatever.
I was gonna say, I'm a fan of the Pirates franchise, as shitty as they are. So
that's how you got to look at it.
Try to find some redeeming quality, although I'm not hearing much great. But among the shitting on it, try to find something nice to say about it.
I'll enjoy it regardless. That's pretty much where I'm at. Alien Covenant was mega flawed, and I walked out of that movie saying, not bad.
I walked out of that movie saying, better than Prometheus.
So I mean, it's not terrible. So again, anyway, write in and let us know what you guys think about Fargo so far this season, and we also have a Patreon page, which even $1 a month really helps out. We just use it essentially to help pay for services like our website and our hosting fees and things like that, and then also hopefully to upgrade equipment so we can give you guys just a better sounding quality podcast.
Yeah, man. Very cool.
So, you know what to do next. Would you like to tie a bow on this bitch?
I'd love to. Hey, see you next time, little buddies.